Good morning. Today is Monday, February 26th. It is an A day.
How was your break, Armani?
Pretty interesting. I kind of stayed in. It was really cold, so there's nothing to really do.
Yeah, well, over my break, a horrible thing happened to me.
What happened?
I invented a way to create infinite food, and now all of the different governments are coming after me, including the Russians, the Italians, the Americans, our own government, South America, all of South America, got Canada coming after me.
So the whole world is after you, huh?
The moon's coming after me. There's aliens on there, by the way.
So aliens are real?
Yeah, basically. But we don't have time to get into the aliens.
Okay.
And now I just don't know what to do with my life anymore, because if that was my greatest achievement, what even is the point in living anymore? Anyways, let's continue. The cafeteria is serving food and chilled milk.
Track starts March 11th. There's a sign-up sheet at the front desk.
And now up next, Amina is going to interview some teachers for Black History Month.
Dean Lopez, have you ever experienced active racism, profiling, or anything like that due to your color of your skin?
Because I am an African American male, I experience racism daily, unfortunately. And while it is due to the world that we live in society, it does make me sad because of the things that I have to go through. Prime example, over the weekend, I was I had an encounter with a few fellow peers, I would say, and I was depicted to be the aggressor or the one upset when I just was advocating for another one of my peers. But because of the color of my skin, I feel like I was seen as angry or upset when I was just more or less passionate about what I was talking about in defense of my friend. But I think that typically if we do a comparison between an African American person and the Caucasian person, they can be put in the same situation and the outcome will be differently. Because of the color of our skin, we are depicted to be angry or upset or hostile, and we are seen as something that oftentimes we are not. So to answer your question, I do deal with racism often, unfortunately. It is something that I'm looking to change, and that's why I do this work.
Is there a certain stereotype that you think really resonates with you or that you think we should get rid of immediately?
I think the word stereotype as a whole is something that we need to shift our brains away from. So unfortunately, the African American community has the most stereotypes put against them. But think about I know it's Black History Month, and I don't mean to deflect, but think about a Karen. That's a stereotype that was put against also Caucasian people. So I just feel like the stereotype mindset is something that we need to eliminate as a whole, so that way we can all come together and come as one, and we'll be a better nation.
So, unfortunately, I actually have. If I could think of, so I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to have had a couple different experiences, right? But I think there have been, I say that to say that there are a few different circumstances in my life that I can think about. I think one in particular that I think about most that really hurts a lot was, I think I went through what was medical racism.
Oh, that definitely happens.
If that makes sense. It was more or less, if I can condense a story really shortly, I brought my daughter to the doctors. She had fell and cut her mouth open because her tooth went through. And the doctor made a comment about how they knew that I abused my kid. And it really hurt, obviously, because here I am at the emergency room. This was actually during COVID. So there were a lot of other stressors going on in the world. But I'm bringing my daughter to the emergency room to be helped because she cut her lip open. And he was a PA. He made that very hurtful comment. And I've just kind of been holding on to that for a while. I did go through the steps to get him reported and to make sure that somebody was dealing with him because I felt like that was not appropriate. As you know, working in education, a comment like that could really derail my profession. But to me, that in itself was racism at its best.
I'm here with Ms. Nia.
Okay, growing up, I grew up in the Bronx. And I also grew up in Queens, but I didn't grow up in Queens. I was in Queens. I never experienced anything until I came up here, upstate. I went to a party with some friends. I had some guy come up to me and was like, "What is your name?" Like Shaquisha, Monisha. They tell me like, "Hey, you speak good for a brown girl." Mostly my mom, it wasn't about me. The person wouldn't give us directions. They actually crossed the street when my mom asked for the directions. The place that we was asking about, you could tell the person lived in the neighborhood, and the place we were asking about was literally at the corner. So they crossed the street, and then I kept looking back, and I seen them cross the street once they got past us, and they were like walking their little dog. It was, I had a lot of questions that weren't answered because I never experienced something like that. But then when I got up here, I was like, oh, people are like that.
Have I experienced some medical racism when I was giving birth to my daughter? So essentially, there's this whole thing where they think black people's skin is thicker. So when I was getting my IV in for all the medicines and whatnot, they punched through my vein and kept asking like, "Oh, did anyone ever tell you have thick skin before, like really tough skin?" I was like, no, not really. So she pushes further into my muscle, and I still have scars on my wrists from it. So if they didn't have the idea of, hey, your skin is thicker, you can handle more pain, I wouldn't have these scars today. So like, there's a lot of times in my life where I experienced that.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
feeling safe enough to experience this.